Hello everyone, I'm Correa, and welcome to my guide on IS-EX-2 with the challenge mode. This time around, the challenge mode condition is that there's going to be more enemies that will appear. What this means is that when the last 3 civilians come through this space here, we will be getting a bunch of enemies spawning at the end. And I'll indicate that as well when we get to the point 2. With this map in particular, there's going to be a few things to note. With one, ranged enemies will be spawning out of this gate here. On the top gate you'll have your standard enemies. And then over here will be where the Terrorizer Mafia boss enemies will be spawning from. And how my comp will be focused is a Centurion guard here to handle the top side. I'll be having a guard here as well to focus on the ranged operators. And then a defender on the top to hold the Terrorizer enemies that will be spawning. Now let's take a look at our comp here. So my comp comprises of a bunch of low rarity operators, however, the one crux of my comp will be Texas the Omertosa, with her second skill. Now I do have a Texas myself, however, I am just going to pull a support Texas, just to show that you guys can do the same thing, getting a support Texas and using them as well. So I do have a friend of mine that does have a maxed out Texas already. Now with the rest of the comp, I do have 2 Vanguards that will be helping out for the early hold and the DP. I then have my Centurion guard here, which will be holding the top lane. I am using Cutter this time around to hold the bottom left side of the screen and to deal with the ranged enemies, as Cutter's skill 1 does a decent amount of DPS to where she can almost one-bang the enemies as long as there's one in front of her, or deal a decent amount to the 2 enemies that may spawn themselves. Now you can swap Cutter out for another operator. A Lord like Lapland or Thorns can also be placed in that position and facing up, to where they can not only cover the left side but also help the Centurion guard on top as well. I am then using a Frostleaf here, which if you're using another operator to hold the bottom left isn't going to be necessary, but I just have Frostleaf for helping again with the bottom left hold of the lane. Now Frostleaf's expanded range also benefits greatly, as she's able to cover a lot of area that other lords in her position would not, and I'll show you what I mean too by that as well. I am then for my defender using Cora. Cora's going to be holding the far right of the screen where those Terrorizer enemies are going to be coming through, and she'll also be there for when the Silencer does eventually spawn as well, and because of her defense buff, she'll be able to hold fairly well. Additionally, I have then just 3 medics. These medics are just going to help heal all the other operators. Additionally, all 3 will be in range of Cora to help heal Cora when the time comes for the Silencer enemy. And with that, let's get started. So, first I'm going to start placing out my Vanguards here for the DP generation. Now one thing to note is I'm going to be placing all my healers first, as with the ranged enemies that will be spawning from down here, I don't want them to immediately focus my ranged operators. I want them to focus on the melee ops that I am going to be placing down. Here, I'm going to retreat my Fang and place down my Cutter. And with my positioning of Cutter here, she is in a good spot to where the enemies that will be flowing through, she can hit them, but also is going to stop their path as well. I'm going to get my Centurion guard down here, and this will be the main hold. I'll then return my Vanilla, place down my Cora, and I'll get ready for the enemies that are going to come through here. From here, I'm going to start placing down my Frostleaf to help hold with this part of the lane. As you can see, her range is fairly bigger than normal lords when she's E2'd, and this will mean that she can cover these spaces here, which normally this space here an other lord would not be able to carry. Additionally, she can cover the spot where Cutter is and help with some additional hits, because they will be blocked in that square. Last thing I'll be doing is placing another healer facing up to again help the Cora heal as well. And from here, it's just going to be paying attention to the enemies here and down here, and make sure you pop skills when necessary. Once you get 2 of the terrorizers spawning here, get down your Texas and face her up right here. Texas will then be able to fairly quickly shred these terrorizer enemies that are going to spawn. Then when she's done with her main skill, just return her. And good. As you saw, I was just paying attention to my life of my operators again, just to see if I need to pop my perfumer skill there. Now this here would be the end of where the normal mode would go. As you clear out the last few of the big enemies here, last few ranged enemies, and then the civilians would end there.
My bodily fluids aren't the only thing that's chilling.
However, once this ends, for the challenge mode, you will get the last bit of enemies coming through. And as the blood bar is almost filled, we will get those last few enemies coming through.
Let's chill.
Now with this, I will just pop my medic skills, because these guys do have buffed arts attack right now. And since the silencer is going to be starting to target Korra, I'll pop her skill as well. Now once the silencer is finally blocked by Korra, place down your Texas and start letting Texas do her shred. And with that, that is IS-EX-2 challenge mode.